Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Thursday, April 1st, 2021. Some crazy news today. Russell Wilson on the move. And also crazy, Tom Brady might not be a go for the season after a botched knee surgery.
April Fools!
There goes that man's jock strap.
Oh my God, did you see that? America's team? Yeah, right.
Oh, baby, it's a big day in sports. There's nothing like battling it out with your teammates all season long to go win a championship. Green Bay's got it this year. Huge move for them. I think it's going to be a game changer.
We have a lot to talk about this busy week in the sports world. Welcome to the In a League of Their Own podcast.
Hey, man, how's it going today?
Hey, bud, it's going great. How about yourself?
Just fantastic. We got you guys there with that intro. Unfortunately, Russell Wilson's not on the move yet. And Tom Brady's surgery went well, according to his doctor. So got you guys there. Yeah, otherwise, there's some interesting stuff to talk about today. It's opening day of MLB. So that'll be interesting. Season gets underway here. For our Brewers, Woodruff gets the start today. I believe their game should be underway here shortly, if not already this afternoon. Yeah, kind of the thing to dive into first today. As the pro days keep happening, basically every day another college is having their pro day. Yesterday, Kyle Pitts from Florida had an amazing pro day. He ran a 4.44 40. It's a lot of fours there. 33.5-inch vertical, 22 reps on the bench, and just a monstrous dude, 6'6", 245 pounds. And after his pro day, Pitt said he's going to be the best tight end to ever play the game. Just kind of looking at his stats and even seeing some of his highlights from his college days, do you think he's going to live up to that, or do you think he's just getting a little too full of himself there?
I think this guy is the next Rob Gronkowski, maybe even a little bit more talented because it seems like he's a little bit more athletic and can move a little bit better than Gronk can, where Gronk is a little bit more stumbly. I guess if you really want, like if you break down and you can just watch a couple clips, if you want to on YouTube, pull it up and just watch like the highlight video. But Pitts' feet, he can move like a wide receiver. Quick feet, where Gronkowski is more of that blocking type, just run and get open type of guy, where Pitts is the one that can really do it all. He's fast, he's big. He didn't even have that great of a quarterback. I know Kyle Trask. He's an okay quarterback, but he didn't even have like the top tier quarterback, and he still is putting up the numbers that he did. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be great to see him get in the NFL and catching some balls from a guy who can throw it. I definitely, if he stays healthy and can play for quite a while, I could see him being up there as potentially one of the greatest tight ends of all time. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree, especially with the fact that he can be used as a tight end. He's a big physical guy, so you can still use him as a blocker. Keep him as an extra guy on the line for run plays and stuff like that. But then you can put him in kind of a wideout position as well. At 6'6", 245, that's I don't know exactly what DK Metcalf is off the top of my head, but DK Metcalf is a taller, solid receiver as well. So with being kind of that similar physique, he can be really used anywhere on the field. And kind of like you said, you think of Travis Kelce is more closer to a receiver build than Gronkowski is. Gronk is kind of that bigger, kind of, you said, a little more stumbly kind of guy. He's a little rigid, but still obviously one of the best tight ends to ever do it. Pitts is going to have kind of both of those guys have a one-up on them for being more of a receiver tight end mesh build. So yeah, like you said, so long as he stays healthy and so long as he lands on a good team where he fits into the scheme where he's going to be getting the rock a lot, I definitely think he could be one of the best.
Yeah, and like you said, DK Metcalf, he's 6'4", let me just check that again. 6'4", 229 is what he's listed at on Wikipedia. And Gronkowski is listed as 6'6", 265. So he's got more of that Gronk build, but can run more like DK Metcalf.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be – that's a crazy, like, overall skilled guy for a tight end. I think you look kind of like Travis Kelce, who the dominant tight ends of today's game. They're not that fast.
No.
Now you're bringing Pitts in, a guy who can run. Maybe he starts blowing the top off some coverage of some linebackers down the field, shredding that cover two right down the middle. I know a lot of teams do have trouble in the middle of the field or out on those corners. So you have him run like a post to the corner, big guy up there in the corner. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where he falls. Wherever he does fall, he's going to be a talent to watch this year. That's no doubt. So I'm excited to see where he ends up and excited to see him play this year.
For sure. I guess a lot of people, when they look at a player, we kind of make comparisons to Gronk and Kelsey. There's not really anybody to compare him to. He's kind of the first of his breed at the tight end position. Most tight ends are kind of your beefier. Some of your bigger guys are more or less used for blocking. Like, I think of like Mercedes Lewis on the Packers, for instance. He goes out and catches passes once in a while, but he's more or less used as a blocker.
Yeah, the only one I could think of would be Vernon Davis when he came into the league for the San
Mhm.
Francisco 49. He was that fast, big fucking guy, and they used him all the time until obviously he got banged up with injuries and whatnot. But it's kind of like that same kind of like when he came in the league. I remember everybody was super high on him because he could move and he could catch. He did very well. But yeah, it's staying healthy, being the tight end, because you have to do both: run, block, pass, block, and catch balls and take hits and stuff. I feel like you are taking a really big beating.
Oh yeah, because there's some of the most, if not the most, versatile position on the field. Even a lot of teams don't really have a fullback anymore on their team. They use a tight end for kind of that fullback position on like an ISO or something up the middle. Uh, so yeah, they kind of got to do it all. They wear multiple hats on the field, that's for sure. I guess kind of sticking with the NFL, the other I guess headline I had for today was Giants owner um, came out and said after spending a bunch of money, it's time to start winning. I guess I'll kind of name off some notable free agents and see how you weigh in on this. So some of the guys that went after in free agency, Kenny Galladay, good receiver from the Lions. Adoree Jackson came over from the Titans. They signed guard Zach Fulton. Obviously, good to give um, what's his name? Quarterback Daniel Jones protection. They went out and got vet Kyle Rudolph at tight end, and then they also kept their stud D lineman Leonard Williams. Good move for them. Obviously, if they didn't keep him, he was going to go get a huge payday somewhere else. So good for them to keep him there. Do you think the Giants are setting themselves up for kind of a winning season? Do they have enough parts to do that, or are they still trying to find their identity? Obviously, the big question mark is with Daniel Jones, whether he can get the job done. But if they can get Saquon Barkley back for a full year, that helps as well. So I guess where do you kind of weigh on the Giants this year?
Man, that's a good question. Um, the couple games I did watch them play last year, for as bad as they ended up doing, um, they had moments of brilliance, moments of flashes. Watching Daniel Jones, there's a couple plays every single game that the kid makes, and it's like, okay, he's an NFL quarterback, but then you watch him and he also makes those plays. Like, what the hell are you doing out there, dude? So I feel like his experience, as obviously just being in the league year after year, the more you're in it, the more you're going to see. Hopefully he's been doing a little extra work trying to read some plays and stuff like that now that they did bring in those weapons. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I know if Saquon can stay healthy for his season, that's a huge weight lifted off the Giants' shoulders, as he is a lot of their offensive production. Is the guy's just a beast, legs the size of tree trunks. But yeah, I could definitely see them saying the time is now with the money that we spent, because it's been ever since, Eli was kind of on his way out. They've kind of been in this position of which direction are we going? Are we just going to full on rebuild, or are we going to stay relevant? They haven't really it seems like they haven't fully decided yet because they keep having back and forth seasons where there's moments where they can beat good teams and play good against good teams. Then there's moments where they just shit the bed and it's like, you're an NFL team. I wouldn't say by any means that they're at the bottom of the league, even though their record the last couple hasn't been the greatest. I would still say Cincinnati's probably Houston Texans is by no means the worst team in the NFL, and everybody knows that just because of all the situations that's going on there. You have the departure of Hopkins and Watt now. People moving around. You bring in Tyrod Taylor, who's kind of on the last legs of his career, trying to still hang on, and then obviously the whole Deshaun Watson thing. So I'd say anybody's happy to end up anywhere besides Houston. And yeah, now that they moved to that 17 game too, the Cowboys, who are so known for going 8-8, like the most average fucking team of like all time, basically. Do you think they go 8-9 now? Do you think that's the new, or is it going to be 8-8-1? Are they going to try to get a tie in there so that they can keep that even record? What do you think those records are going to kind of shake out, and who's going to be like the favorite in the East?
As much as I like to give the Cowboys shit, I do think that they'll finally, if they could put together a full healthy season, they'll win the East, which isn't saying a whole lot. I could see them going 10-7, like 9-8, whatever that is, to win the East, which again isn't saying a whole lot. Their probably biggest competitor is going to be the Washington football team, maybe even the Giants now, looking at kind of who they signed over free agency. The Eagles are kind of in that rebuilding stage, just got a brand new head coach. They're still kind of on the fence with Jalen Hurts. Zach Ertz is kind of on his last legs. So do they try to get rid of him while he still has value, that kind of thing? So there's a lot going on in the NFC East. And again, for the Giants to, like you said, they kind of had back and forth years where they haven't decided to completely rebuild or stick with what they have. Do you think that's because they're in the NFC East, that because they're relevant still in that division, that they haven't been able to decide? Obviously, if they come in at the bottom of that division and don't stand a chance, okay, we sucked ass, we need to rebuild. But literally this past season, it came down to the Eagles had to beat the Eagles had to beat the
Washington Redskins, or
Washington
the football team.
the football
Washington
team,
football team.
and the Giants would have been in the playoffs instead of Washington. So they were literally essentially one game away, where if that game would have went their way, or if they would have won one more game earlier in the season, they would have been the top of the East. So,
and that's with no running back.
Yeah. So in hindsight, yeah, they had a poor year, but at the same time, looking at them in the perspective of the NFL, you cut them in half. They fall in the bottom 16 teams for sure, which obviously isn't good. You can't be satisfied whether you're close to winning your division or not to being at the bottom half of the league. So I don't know. Makes you wonder if they were in a different conference, if they would have rebuilt and kind of had a different identity by now. But because that division is such a laughing stock that they can scrape by and have a losing record and still almost win the division. But yeah, as for like you said about the Cowboys, yeah, if they can
should
put
win
together
that division every year based on the roster on paper. Every single year they have guys that they can play. It's just always funny to see. It almost seems like ever since they've won their last Super Bowls that they've won and trying to get back to a Super Bowl, seems like they always ruin themselves. They always step on their own foot before they take that next step, whether it's in the playoffs. Obviously, Packers fan, Dez didn't catch the ball, but he caught the ball. So, I mean, that maybe right there could have changed maybe something for that franchise right there, since they lost out on that. And then you also had the year where Rodgers threw like a 61-yard ball down the sidelines to tap it out, and Crosby comes in, nails a field goal, we beat him again. Like, they've always shot themselves in their own foot at some point.
Yeah.
It hasn't been the other teams beating them. It's them shooting themselves in the own foot. Jerry, now that they have McCarthy down there, I know he did okay for us as the Packers starting out. He did get a little stale and kind of kept everything the same. Almost seemed like he lost interest in being excited, showing up to work every day. But now he's down there. He's making a pretty penny with the Cowboys, and seems like he's buddy with Jerry Jones. So let's see where they take it and how they got Dak back healthy too. I know that's a huge part of it, and will help solidify his Dak's position as a quarterback where he is in the league, because we haven't really seen him play a full season without missing some time or them not having a decent roster.
Yeah. And one thing I want to mention too with the whole Des caught it, Des didn't catch it thing, for all the Dallas fans that want to say, oh, that game would have turned out different. Clock still had 4.5 minutes on it, and you got Aaron Rodgers on the other side. You would have lost that game anyway, so I just want to point that out. But yeah, I agree. There's been some turning points with that franchise over the past couple of years. Whether McCarthy turns it around. And one thing I want to know too, as far as kind of the Dallas, you mentioned the roster. They've had a notable, like one of the best rosters in that division for decades, and they've had. I love to see that statistic too. Is that the Cowboys have been in the NFC for like 3 decades with 0 playoff wins, or with 1 playoff win. Tom Brady's been in the NFC for 1 year and he has a Super Bowl. But just one thing, or the kind of as far as the roster thing, in that division, Dallas has the best quarterback probably in Dak Prescott. They have arguably the best running back in Zeke Elliott. They have arguably probably the
best receivers.
Best receivers.
Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, or not Jerry Jeudy.
CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb and what's his Randall Cobb.
Mm-hmm.
They got some good.
Cobb was on the Texans last year.
Was he?
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, I was thinking.
But and then tight end wise, they had a Hall of Famer in Jason Witten. So your 4 moneymakers on the offense, you've either had or currently have arguably the best in that division. So, and they've had a notable defense as a whole too.
Defensive line, I'd say. Like they've had Alden Smith they brought in, who's DeMarcus Lawrence. Mm-hmm. Like they got a handful of big name guys, but their defense stinks, dude.
Yeah.
Their defense is terrible, and that's why they're probably looking for a corner safety in the draft, someone who can come in. I forgot who was that, Diggs' younger brother, who is a defensive back for the Cowboys. A Diggs?
You might be right. I don't remember exactly.
Anyway, they have a young guy on their team who played phenomenal this year. He did get hurt, so he missed a little bit of time there at the end. But they need help on the defensive side, that's for sure. Especially, what was it? I forgot. Like Dak, who's on pace for all those yards because they were down like 30 points going into the fourth quarter, like every time, and the defenses are just sitting back saying, hey, we'll give you 10 yards because we're not going to give up the touchdown here.
Yeah.
And it's like, that kind of sucks when teams do that, but it's playing the game. It's all about getting those dubs.
Yeah. Yeah, any other – that's kind of all I had for NFL news. You have just anything
Tom
else
Brady.
to note?
Yeah, just Tom Brady. Knee surgery went well. Had a minor little touch-up on his knee. Dude's getting old. He's taking a beating every single season still. Still does it every single year. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he's back in the NFC Championship game next year. That team is a wagon. And right now it almost seems like the Chiefs and the Buccaneers have built themselves to face each other in the Super Bowl every single year until Tom Brady's gone. It kind of seems like that's where we're at, where it's Andy Reid versus Bruce Arians, and it's going to be the showdown until one of them loses a quarterback or one of them loses like a main weapon. I know, like, I could see the Buccaneers completely falling apart when Brady leaves. I could see Gronk stepping away. I could see AB stepping away. I could see Fournette stepping away. I could see Sue they have a lot of older veterans on their team
Mike
who've
Evans
been there.
Mike Evans and Chris Godwin might want out to a different team, and
I'd say Godwin he'd still stay in the NFL. Evans too, but I'm just saying like retiring. Like Gronk would be gone. Brady would be gone. Leonard Fournette's at the end of his road. Sue's old. Like they have a lot of old guys that probably hang it up after this however many year run they're going to go on while Brady's in town. I know I hate to see it as a Packers fan because we're always going to have to run into them in the playoffs at some point if everything stays how it's been, because the Packers have always made it to the NFC Championship game these last, 3 years now?
3 of the last 4, I think.
3 of the last 4 we've been in the NFC Championship game and lost them all. So that just goes to show that the Packers need to make a move. Like we need to go get fucking Richard Sherman. Like I'm telling you, I feel like that is the missing key that we need for our defense. Just another guy coming in who's like that coach on the field. He's seen it all. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. Dude's unbelievably smart.
Been to multiple Super Bowls, so he knows what it takes to get there.
I believe he's even won a defensive MVP, maybe.
Could
at least
be.
Best cornerback.
I mean, he was on the cover of Madden for 2015.
That's hilarious. I type in Richard Sherman, and the first thing that pops up is Richard Sherman Packers.
Yeah. It's always funny typing in players' names in Google and having a team pop up behind them that they're not currently on, because either there's articles or just enough people search it that it starts to auto-populate it, even if it's not true.
Yeah, just a quick little – all these articles that I'm reading right now just talked about exactly what I talked about yesterday. Veteran status coming in, teaching our young guys how to play. It's like, man, we need someone like that.
I guess one more note for NFL too. It was either yesterday or 2 days ago we talked about T.Y. Hilton re-signing with the Colts. He was on the McAfee show. He was talking to Pat either yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever it was. And Pat asked him about what other offers he got and stuff. And then Pat McAfee was like, "Oh, there's talks about the Ravens." And the T.Y. Hilton's like, "Yeah, it was the Ravens." Because he had higher offers, because he ended up signing a 1-year, $8 million deal to stay in Indy. Supposedly he had offers from the Ravens and maybe 1 or 2 other teams of $10 million plus to go elsewhere. But he said ultimately he wanted to stay in Indy. So, I mean, good for him to stay loyal, but it was just interesting that, that would have been a good move for the Ravens, because obviously their past scheme is kind of a laughing stock. Obviously, Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback. He's one of those obviously dual threats that you never know what he's going to do as soon as he snaps it, but they've been one of the worst passing teams in the league, so that would have been a good move for them. But like I said, good move for Indy to keep him there.
Yeah, some other pretty big news as well. Different topic. NFL owners approved Dan Snyder's buyout of the Washington football team from the minority owners. So it looks like Dan Snyder's family is now in 100% control of the Washington football team. This is even with, I don't know if anybody's really paid attention to this. I know Washington football fans have, since this is probably still in the media over there. There was an independent investigation underway on the Washington organization due to 20 women who worked for the Washington football team had said that there were a number of sexual harassment incidents that all have been reported by employees over a 15-year period. This investigation was still ongoing, and the owners still gave this guy full control of the organization. That just goes to show again how the NFL is its own government and can pretty much do whatever they want to do. Whoever they want to own a team is going to own the team. They'll work all those loopholes. They'll make everything happen how it has to happen. And rumor has it is that they did this to now Jeff Bezos, I believe, at some point here is going to be buying out Daniel Schneider from the team within the next couple of years here, because he had interest in getting into the football market as he wanted to expand his investments and whatever. So he wants to own a football team. And they said that there was speculation that this was just an early set move to get his family in full control so that Bezos didn't have to come in and step on anybody's toes, where he can just write one check to one family and call it good. So that's a little bit of interesting news there for the Washington football team. I know they still aren't 100% sure who they're even going to draft, and they have all this stuff going on that's been going on for quite a while. So pretty nuts. It's pretty nuts to see the NFL doing all of this. It seems like after this COVID year, it kind of seems like they're coming in and doing anything that they want to do, anything and everything that they want to do with no questions asked to anybody, because they know that they got to keep this league rolling because the money that's coming through.
Yeah. Yeah, just kind of looking at it, there's not a whole lot else going on in the NFL today, which is fine. It's funny with it being their off season. It's kind of been our main point, is talking about the NFL every day, which is fine. It's probably the biggest sport that we share an interest in. So, but I guess kind of switching over to the college side here briefly, two kind of things to talk about. For starters, head coach of North Carolina basketball, Roy Williams, announced his retirement today after 33 years. So hats off to him. Yes.
There's a round of applause there.
Amazing career
great
for
career.
him.
Yeah, great career. And everybody knows who he is. MJ.
Yeah. Everything he's done over the past 3 decades, winning a couple titles, being – I can't remember if he's number 1 for men's basketball wins or if he's in the top 5 for sure. I can't remember exactly where he's at, but he's proven he can win every year. This year they missed out on the tournament, which it was interesting to see North Carolina, Duke, and Kentucky all out of it this year for the first time since 80 years or something, whatever it was. Yeah, just one thing to note there. And then the other thing with college, sticking with hoops as well, is Cade Cunningham from Oklahoma State Cowboys announced he's going to enter the NBA draft after his stellar freshman year. They made a run in the NCAA tournament. I believe that they got knocked out in the second round, I want to say. I don't think they made the Sweet 16, but so yeah, we briefly talked before we went on air about him potentially being a number 1 pick come next year or this year's draft. So I guess one thing to note, with this as well, that you see a lot with the NBA, you don't really see a whole lot with any other sport, maybe hockey as well, with kind of how young these guys are coming into the professional league. So after Cade's freshman year, you see a lot of one-and-done careers. Kobe came straight from high school into the NBA, 18 years old. I guess, do you think that that's kind of good for these young guys to get into the league that early, or do you think that that there should be a minimum of maybe 2 or 3 years in college to help these guys mature a little bit more before they go up to the big show?
I think every case is different to every situation. Depends on the kid more than likely. If the kid can handle it, he's a mature kid. He's kind of got his eggs in his basket and he's got a good head on his shoulders. I don't see why a kid should be held back and have to go that college route if they are ready. I know that I'm not saying every kid's ready out of high school to go to the pros to go play, or even after 1 year of college experience to even go play. Some kids need more than that. Some kids need 2-3 years of living on their own, figuring out how to just operate in the world. You're still a really young kid yet, and you're figuring all this stuff out. Also, it depends on what type of agent you're set up with, what type of people you have around you, your support system. If you have a great one, I say go for it. If not, I would say you need to figure out your team, who's on your team, before you go push yourself to that next level where it's dog eat dog, and every snap, every single time you take every time you play could be your last time potentially playing the sport that you love. So you definitely need a huge support system. But I think it's awesome seeing these younger kids come in. I know for the NHL, I've talked about it a few times. It's getting so young, so fast. Like, it is just so amazing to watch young kids who are that good at sports out there. And you can't even tell that they're not 34-year-old seasoned vets. It's going to be great to see the longevity of these young kids' careers if they can continue to stay healthy. Like, hopefully they all do. And I believe that was the plan with all these sports organizations too, is you get guys in young, they stay in the league a long time, you build their brand, you build the face. Generational, because they're almost targeting the next generation now with these sports and these young kids that they're bringing in. I know us being a little bit older, it's just like Rogers coming in was a huge deal. It's like Kobe, huge deal. Kind of around the edge of the Tiger. He was insane in the 90s.
Yeah,
We're
late
still
90s.
really young to fully understand what was going on with that whole thing. But it's just like there's generational players, and now it's like the Connor McDavids, the kids who are super young who are just phenomenal. It's like Trevor Lawrence. If all the hype is true, what's been on him for a couple of years now, it seems potentially the greatest fucking quarterback to ever play college football. Like, we'll see. Like, no doubt, he definitely did a great job in college football, but in the NFL, it's a different beast.
Yeah, like you said, it's all about the longevity of these young guys coming in. Obviously, they prove how good they are in high school and college, and it's always tough to see guys who either fall into issues with injuries or get in trouble with their money or drugs or alcohol, stuff like that that can cut these guys young careers short. Um, Obviously, you always hope the best for them, and that's where, like you said, getting these guys young or in early, it builds that brand to have them in the league for 1-2 decades, depending on whatever league they're in. Um, but yeah, the important part is for them to keep their heads on straight and be able to manage their money and still be able to go out and perform on a either weekly basis or every other day basis, depending on what league they end up in.
Yeah, definitely. It's all dependent on the situation. Every situation's unique.
Um, Yeah. Anything else you got as far as college hoops or just college monster in general?
Nothing really today about the NCAA. I think I'll lay off them for a day. We'll let the Supreme Court keep hammering them.
Yeah. Um, Kind of switching over some of the last points that I have at least for today on the NHL side. I wanted to save them for last for you, just because. As for those of you who watch this and know that Philadelphia Flyers are Austin's favorite team in the NHL side. Um, Last night, Flyers fell to the Sabres 6-1, ending a historically cold streak for the Sabres. Obviously, unfortunate for whatever team it is to be on the other side of that, to end up giving a terrible team their first win after a stretch. Um, I guess what does this mean for the Flyers as they sit 3 points behind Boston right now, who, mind you, has a handful of games to make up by season's end? What do they need to do to kind of get their stuff in gear before the season closes?
That's a great question. If I were on the part of the Philadelphia Flyers, don't panic. Now's not the time to hit the eject button. You're still 17-14 on the season. You're still over 500. You still have time to get back. You just need to start locking it down and start playing each game in each period almost in 5-minute segments, where if you win the 5 minutes, win the next 5 minutes, win the next 5 minutes, win the next. I feel like they're more focused on the end goal because they came in this season favored to win the East, favored to. I feel like their heads were a little too big And they did go on a great run to start the season. Then they ran into COVID. COVID's kind of held them up, and they've kind of been in a fluke funk ever since their guys have been coming back from COVID. I have like a similar experience for what the Flyers have dealt with back in playing juniors. We were on like a 35-game winning streak, if I remember, and we went into it's in Iowa, somewhere in Iowa. We were playing a team in Iowa. Oh, Quad Cities, Iowa. Went in there for a 2-game stand, and that pressure of you can't lose, you can't lose, you can't lose. We ended up losing in overtime, and I just remember it felt like everybody got shot in the gut. We were kind of, oh my God, panic button. But our coach, thank God, who's back in the day dealt with something like this on a different team, he just said, now's not the time to panic. Just get back to doing what you're doing. You know, sometimes people just get a lucky bounce. Sometimes people just get it. You know, both teams are out there trying as hard as they can. I'm not saying that the Flyers are trying, even though watching them on TV, some of their players out there really need to get their ass in gear, because it looks like they're just out there playing, collecting a paycheck, when I can tell you there's probably thousands of kids out there that would be dying to get a chance to suit up and step out there on the ice and show what they could do. So don't panic. You know, we did just waive Gostisbehere, probably one of our top scoring defensemen. I personally think that he was probably our second best defenseman behind Provorov. Waived him. Maybe it's just a reality check for some of these players, where if you're not going to try, we'll play the young kids who are going to bust a nut out there doing, dying to be out on the ice because they're trying to make themselves a career, where some of these older guys already kind of got it and are playing in their 5th, 6th, 7th season, and they're still young. Like, the Flyers team is very young. That's another problem I feel like that they're running into, is Claude Giroux, who's the veteran, the captain on the team. He's not a real vocal guy. You need someone in there encouraging the guys, like keeping everybody afloat. It seems like watching their games, it seems like when they go down, everybody's dead quiet on the bench. They're kind of shell-shocked, like, oh my God, we're down again. We just got scored on. They battled back on Monday, but it's not realistic to be putting yourselves 3 goals down every single game and expecting to come back to win. You're not going to win. You'll probably win 2 out of 10, maybe, if you put yourselves in that position. So, Flyers fans, I told myself I wouldn't watch the Flyers anymore if they lost yesterday for the rest of the season. So I think I'm going to stick to that word. And they don't even deserve my time right now, I don't feel. They're not giving their all effort out there on the ice. Kevin Hayes is one of my favorite Flyers. Ever since we picked him up, it was a big, big trade. What the fuck are you doing out there? Like, come on. We brought you over and paid you a good contract to perform. If you're not going to perform and you're not going to be out there, I know the lines and shit have been all switched around and whatever. Guys are trying to build chemistry playing with new guys, which isn't always easy to do on the fly, or if it's switching every game, you don't really have that chance to build chemistry of where people are going to be. But it's time now for the older guys who've been in the league a little bit for the Flyers. Let's go. Like, step up a little bit. If we can't, looking at the schedule here, honestly, if the Flyers can't win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So they have 17 games next month, or this month, I should say. And then they have 2, 4, 6 next month, and the season's over. So if they have 23 games left total. If the Flyers realistically don't sweep the Boston Bruins this weekend or next week, Monday, Tuesday, it's over. They're going to put themselves too far back from Boston, and Boston is starting to get everybody back. They went through a whole COVID spell too. Pittsburgh's hot right now. Rangers are hot right now. I just feel like the Flyers' season's over unless they can't get three out of the next 5 games. They almost have to win more than that. Like, they play the Islanders, who are up there, Boston's who's up there, then they play the Islanders, Boston, Washington, Pittsburgh, Washington, Islanders, Rangers, who just beat them. Like, every game's a playoff game for them at this point now, where everyone you lose, you're pretty much kissing your season goodbye.
Yeah.
Just sad to watch, man. I could go on for so long just talking about how disappointing it is to see what's happened, but being a hockey player who's experienced something similar to that, obviously not losing to a team that's been on an 18-game losing streak, but being on the other side of just winning all the time and then running into an opponent where you lose, those are one of the moments where it hits you in the, it's a real gut check. Like, what do you have as a team? How do you bounce back from that? Because now you're the laughing stock of the NHL. You're literally the laughing stock of the NHL. Teams probably say you're the worst team in the league at this point, and your record doesn't show that, but how you fucking play, man, speaks for how good your team is. And the Flyers have been playing like garbage. Like, that's probably the worst month I've ever seen a team play. I think they've got 4 wins all of last month. 4. And they're losing shit teams. I mean,
By a lot.
well, yeah. I mean, they beat Buffalo lost to Pittsburgh, then they beat Pittsburgh, lost to Washington, beat Buffalo, which was the worst team. That was like the start of their shit streak. That was like mid of their shit streak. So we beat Buffalo 5-4 and that was like at the beginning of their shit streak. Lose 2 against the Washington. You beat the Rangers 5-4, but you came back. Every game the Flyers have won, it's like they put themselves 3 goals down and played a miraculous game to come back and win. And it's like, yeah, they won, but it's just like you played 2 full games trying to catch up where the next game you're going to be done. And that's what it is. Every game after they've won, they've lost. I don't think they've won 2 in a row all season. Oh, just kidding. Their first 2 games, they won back-to-back. And then they did win 3 in a row in February when they only played 7 games the whole month. So it just goes to show they don't have what it takes this year, because their goaltending. I feel bad for Brian Elliott too. He's old. Carter Hart, you're really young. Alex Lyon, you're young. I mean, I feel bad for the old vet having to come in when it's 4 goals down and you got to stand in there and play. I mean, Brian Elliott's done a phenomenal job this year. So if it weren't for him, I think the Flyers would be like maybe the worst record in the league.
I guess kind of moving to some other hockey talk. I know you'd mentioned or briefly talked about the deadline coming up on April 12th for the trade deadline. You plan on having a friend of yours come on too and talk about that. Looking forward to that. Probably next week or the week after, have him on. What was it? Let's say it's the 1st, so maybe 2 weeks, just because that's closer to the trade deadline. But I guess obviously the Flyers, you know where their head's at the most. But I guess what are some key moves that some teams, either the Flyers or not the Flyers, need to make before the deadline, before the postseason comes?
Well, since this is a different year than compared to most, it's going to be interesting to say, due to, I don't know if there's any stipulations or protocols on if they do trade for a guy, does he have to go on the COVID protocol list before he goes and plays for this new team as he's moving to a new area? Like, some of the guys could be crossing divisions, stuff like that. But teams who I could really think would go out there and make a play at this point, being right there, my Kings, the Los Angeles Kings, that's my second favorite team. They I know they've been a dumpster fire after they've won their last couple cups. They've kind of been going through a rebuild. They're 4 points out, one game in hand. So really 2 points out, one game back from that fourth spot. I could see them going to maybe potentially getting another goal scorer. Somebody who's going to come in there and pump some goals in. Same with my Flyers. I really don't know what direction they're going in, especially after that loss. Originally, I was going to say maybe you move Gostisbehere, who we just waived. Maybe you move him and a couple picks, and you try to go get a goal scorer, someone who's going to light the lamp, because it seems like the Flyers have a hard time scoring regularly. It seems like they go in long stretches where it's either 4 goals in 3 minutes or 4 goals in a period, or maybe they get 1 goal all game long. Like, they go through stretches of hot and cold streaks during games where they can score. The New York Rangers, who are right behind the Flyers, I could see them going to make a move, trying to compete for that 4th spot. Boston, they're set. They're completely set. Fuck. Calgary, the Flames, they could go get a goal scorer, or Vancouver. They're right there on the brink of that 4th spot. The Blackhawks, even tightening up their defense, maybe they could use Shane Gostisbehere, and maybe we could work out some type of trade with them to help both teams out. But there's really not many teams that I could really see going out and making a play. I know teams do look at acquiring a tough guy if they don't have one at this time of year, heading into that last stretch where guys feel protected out there and they know that they'll be okay. Yeah, I don't see any crazy blockbuster moves happening, as that kind of happened the off season. Yeah, I feel like most teams are just gonna keep it how it is. Maybe a few teams going out there, like I said, to get a goal scorer. That's really all I can really think of as teams that are a tough guy. You know, those are really the 2 big things to acquire at the deadline to step your team in that next direction of being that playoff team, because now's the time. Like I said, teams are coming up on 20 games left. Every game's a playoff game from here on out. So if you're playing those back-to-backs, it might not help, or it might not hurt to pick up that extra goal scorer where you have lines 3 and 4 producing as well, because that's huge every single night, where you can get a line 3 or line 4 to at least get a goal plus. Huge for the team. Like, people are more concerned with the top 6, the headline guys scoring goals or whatever, but the game is really won or lost with the guys that people don't even really hear about.
Yeah.
Like, they don't get as much ice time and whatnot, but that ice time is way more valuable for the short stretch that you're out there, to not really lose it for your team when you're out there against the opponent's top line. So yeah, that's really all I can see. Cole Caulfield, I don't know if anybody are familiar with him. He is a Stevens Point, Wisconsin native, drafted by the Montreal Canadiens. He just finished up his season at Wisconsin Badgers. Great career for the Badgers. He's one of the 3 finalists for the Hobey Baker Award, which is the top college hockey player. Interesting to see this year. Immediately after the season was over, which is typically what you see from some of these draft picks, they sign their contract, they start getting paid NHL money, they start moving on after college hockey. It's going to be interesting to see if they pull him up this year to the taxi squad and maybe get him some ice time in the pros. Would be very neat to see him get some ice time, especially being a Wisconsin native. You root for all the Wisconsin guys. So, that's really all I have. East, it's a battle right now. Some of the other divisions, it's a big battle. I mainly know a lot about the East, especially with like this season, with the games being on television and whatnot. really only have time to watch the Flyers, but now that I'm not going to be watching them, I'm going to start watching out for some of these top teams in the league, some of these teams on the bubble, to really start watching them to see what they could use here for the trade deadline episode that we got coming up here.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of all I had for today. I mean, we went longer than I thought we would, given the few points I had. So, any other points that you have to kind of before we wrap up things today?
Yeah, just one quick thing on the NBA. I don't know if people have been following around Kevin Durant, a big online social media guy, loves to get into it with fans. Will chirp you back. He makes burner accounts so he can chirp people, all this type of stuff. Focus on playing basketball, man. It's like you are arguably one of the greatest basketball players walking this planet right now. Why do you got to be involved in, or why do you have to be so, I guess, so sensitive to what people say about you? It's like, you're a good basketball player. Why do you got to get involved and stir up all this stuff? I know this last beef he's had was been with Mike Rappaport, saying he's going to like find him and beat him up and spit on him and stuff like this. And the DMs have now went public. They were shared recently. So what do you kind of think about Kevin Durant and how he's always been scuffling it up with the fans and the media?
Yeah, I mean, I I agree kind of with the same thing. I know Russell Westbrook has kind of been kind of the same guy who's kind of lets kind of fans get to him a little bit. Um, I know certain arenas like Utah Jazz or when he goes to Philadelphia, he always gets kind of the fans get kind of rowdy against him and try to get in his head and stuff like that. And I mean, obviously he's human. He's no different than us at a mental capacity to be able to handle stuff like that. Obviously, he's a far better athlete than both of us. But and same thing with Kevin Durant. Letting fans and stuff get under your skin. It's like don't like why let it happen? Like I understand to have a social media presence. Like I mean that's just kind of the way the world is. Everybody's got a smartphone. A lot of people are kind of invested in their social media time, stuff like that. Um, which is fine. But when you're that high profile of a person, you need to learn how to cope with just sh- like shunning out the negativity and focusing on yourself. Um, Especially if he's making like burner accounts to go like um, get into it with people, and people probably don't know it's him. They just think it's some random guy or think it's some crazy Kevin Durant fan or whatever it might be. Like that's just more petty at that point. If he's going to pick fights, if he's going to look for fights, like you said, just focus on your job as being an NBA basketball player. Obviously, I'm a big advocate for like LeBron James, a lot of these other people who have made that push for social injustice and like the Black Lives Matter movement and stuff like that. It's good for them to use that platform for those cases. Whereas people tell them, "Oh, shut up and dribble," like that part I could see like them getting bent out of shape about. But in this case where you're literally picking fights with fans because you had a bad scoring night or your team lost and they're throwing shade at you, who gives a shit? Just fucking they're getting paid $0 to sit at home and put their greasy fingers on their phone and their Twitter account, and you get to go home to your multi-million-dollar condo or house in Brooklyn. Just live your life, man. Like, don't let this shit get to you.
Yeah, I feel like he's definitely went through the ringer too, especially with all the injuries he's battled back from, especially being as good as he is. It's like, think it might be a little bit different if he's been on the court this whole time and hasn't been sitting in the stands with all this free time on his hands. I know that he's trying to get healthy and get back to be playing, but it's like these athletes that have that overextended period of time where they're hurt or they're not doing something, it's like you always hear something about what they're doing because they need to be involved still. And I feel like that's how Kevin Durant fires himself up almost. Maybe he has that same type of mentality that MJ had that he talked about in The Last Dance, where he could create a villain out of nothing. He could create a false narrative. But Kevin Durant just does it for real. Finds some guy chirping him online and says, okay, this is the motivation to go at it, to get back in the gym, to Where if he's using it that way, great. Then good for him. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep interacting with the fans how you're doing it. But if you're not going to go out there and use it for like energy to help your team, to whatever, then hang it up, man. It's like you're a role model for so many kids out there. Don't keep showing them that being an online troll is cool. You know, trolling is not cool. Messes with a lot of people, and it'd be nice to see professional athletes like, hey, we're an adult. Stop it. You
Yeah.
know, like come on, like we're grown-ups here. But some of those kids don't ever have the chance to grow up, man. They
No.
go straight from college partying to the pros and continue to do that same thing until sometime they get hit with reality and life hits them in the face, and it's got to grow up.
Yeah. And one thing I want to mention, like you said, kind of channeling that energy of having people chirp him. One person I know that does do that, and I want to say it was Klay Thompson, who's talking about Steph Curry. If Steph Curry had a bad first half in a game, supposedly he would go on Twitter and look at all the tweets of people chirping him and saying he's playing like shit, and he use that as energy. He's like, most games that you saw, he'd go into halftime playing like shit and come out and ball out and drop 20, 30 points in the second half. He's like, it's because he went on Twitter and was reading people shit talking him, so he'd come out and ball out. Like that, I love to see that. Like use that as motivation. But like you said, don't use it as a reason to get mad or look to pick fights or look to troll people, stuff like that. Use it as energy to go out there and ball out and play your best. So yeah, there's obviously two sides to the coin, and Steph Curry is on the good side of the coin. Kevin Durant, what the hell are you doing, dude? Figure it out.
Exactly. And these players who chirp each other and stuff like that online in all these other sports, it's like that's why I love hockey. It's like if you got a beef, drop the mitts and let's pound each other in the face and see who's the man here. It just and settle it right then and there. It's over, done. Instead of all this lingering, and then the media gets a hold of it and they do their own little spin on it and make it something that it's not even true, and have everybody talking about when it's just like they could just drop the mitts, pound each other in the face. Whoever's standing, all right, they win.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I never realized that. That's what I love about the NHL. There's never any off ice drama or really anything going on. It's and even like even when two guys do fight, the media isn't like, oh, I wonder what beef was going on with them. Why'd they decide to fight? It's just it's a fun part of the game to watch. And like you said, it's two guys that have beef with each other, whether it's something like said off the ice, and it's like, yeah, the NHL has been one of those leagues that I admire. That kind of it's all about the sport, and you never see any off the ice drama going on.
And the reason I feel like there isn't any off ice drama is because of that everybody's held accountable. They let the sport police itself with the enforcers out there. They're kind of the ones that are setting the line for the game. Like if your superstar gets crushed, you might have someone coming up to you asking to drop them. You know, you're standing up for hey, you're not allowed to hit this guy like that. This is what's going to happen if you do. It's really awesome and so crucial that hockey never loses that fighting aspect of the game, because if you do, you're going to have guys cheap shotting these superstar players and not having no consequence besides 2 minutes in the box or signing a little check, which they have tons of money. It doesn't affect them the way that being scared, looking over your shoulder all night, making sure someone's not grabbing you, about to pound your face in.
Yeah,
It's really, especially playing the game, and I was one of those players that played on the edge like that. I love to get in there and stir shit up. It's a way of policing that game, letting everybody know, hey, if you want to come here, I'm going to fucking be here all night. And if you're going to do something about it, let's do it. You know,
yeah.
you kind of can't. At that point, everybody will stand up for themselves. Like you've seen Crosby fight, you've seen all these top guys throw the mitts. at that level, everybody's a grown-ass man and you'll stand up for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But those couple guys who are looked to as like those enforcer type, like the Ryan Reeves in Vegas, the Sam Moran in Philly, the young defenseman, the big guy. It's like every team has got that guy that will go out there and do that. But the only thing that's changed is back in the day, they'd sign guys before the game fucking to come pound a guy's face in 3 times and then let him go. Where now those fighters, those guys that do the enforcing out there, they also got to be able to play and score goals and skate. It's like Tom Wilson's a prime example of a new style enforcer. He's been one of those guys. Yeah, he has laid a handful of cheap shots, lives on the edge. He's that high energy guy who's firing on all cylinders at all the time. And he's out there playing with Alex Ovechkin, one of the greatest goal scorers the
Mm-hmm.
game's ever seen. And he's out there scoring goals, getting assists. So everybody has to be able to play, and you still have to be able to stand up for yourself at the same time. It's just a really neat balance of how hockey teams are put together, because you do have that aspect of fighting and the
Yeah.
whole policing yourself type of thing.
That's funny too, though, Ovechkin. You mentioned it was a couple weeks back where a young guy dropped the gloves on Ovechkin. And he turns to him, he's just like, "What the fuck are you doing?" They didn't even fight, and he just like picked his gloves back up. Like Ovechkin's got that much respect that he's literally just turns to the guy. He's like, "I'll beat your ass even if I'm fucking twice your age. Like, put your gloves back on." But I guess another thing I want to mention too with fighting and just even like, well, not fighting, but just kind of the not really being a lot of drama in the NHL and guys carry themselves well. And it could be kind of a blessing and a curse. And the NHL not being a very um, high market league as far as money. Like we don't see a lot of money coming in and out of the NHL, bigger contracts like you see in like basketball and baseball and football. Do you think that that's almost a good thing that it humbles these guys because they don't play with the figures that some of these bigger athletes do? So it humbles them a little bit more to just kind of respect the sport, respect each other, whether it's their teammates or opposing players, to just kind of keep it about the sport, not let any off ice drama happen, and just kind of, yeah, like I said, just be more respectful of each other.
I for sure feel that it is a little bit humbling in some sort of ways that the guys aren't making the type of money that these other sports are making, and yet they still go about it almost even more professionally than some of these other sports. I do like the whole basketball aspect of how it's turned into like a players league, and the players are interactive with the fans, and you kind of have that atmosphere where you can go online and you can pretty much find anything out about the NBA that you really want to, because people are so forthcoming. Where it's the NHL, people aren't saying shit. It's always we, it's always us. There's never an I ever said ever. And it's, I don't know, for people who haven't played hockey, I guess it's hard to explain because of what all goes into playing the sport. Like there's so many with every single team, no matter what sport you're playing on. Obviously the bonding of your team and how the chemistry together is a very important aspect. But when it comes to hockey, since there's less people out there, everybody carries a little bit more weight. There is that pressure there of needing to almost be an exceptional role model for people, because hockey is a smaller sport. All the people who are in it, they don't want any bad light being shed on the game. I feel like they still make enough money to where they'll live a great rest of their
Oh
life
yeah,
regardless. So I really appreciate them not asking to break the bank of the NHL and put the league in a tough position with asking for some money that they really could be making due to what other athletes are being paid. And arguably playing hockey is probably I feel like it's one of the hardest sports to play, due to you're playing on little tiny fucking blades, and then you have a puck that's moving around 100 miles an hour, and you're playing in a tiny little space that's all enclosed. There's no out of bounds. It's high paced all the time. Like where football is kind of running it on first down, running it on second down, killing the clock, running the clock down. Where in hockey, you don't really have that because it only takes 0.67 seconds to score a goal.
Mm-hmm.
You could have, 100 goals in a week's time, where NFL guys, 40 touchdowns is kind of that mark for the NH or for the NFL for a quarterback, and if they've had a great season or not. Where you score 40 goals in an NHL season, you've had a phenomenal year. It's that much harder because you have a goalie in the net that's almost the size of the net with pads that almost cover the whole entire thing to put that puck in there. So, like you said, with the NHL being a smaller market, they did just sign that deal with ESPN, so it's glad to have them back on ESPN. They got, I think, about $7 billion coming into the NHL in the next handful of years. NBC's, this is their last run this year with the NHL. So glad to see it back on ESPN. I think that's going to drive the viewership up a little bit more. I think you're going to start to see some more advertisements, some more stuff for the NHL. I know that'd be great for the game. Being a hockey fan, especially, it'd be great to see the game expand. I know Seattle's coming into the league now too. That's also going to make the league. I know Seattle, the Northwest out there, they don't really have any hockey. Besides, they have a couple junior teams out there. I know growing up playing around, there's not that many teams out there for guys that like to play hockey. So, the whole Northwest is going to be rooting for them. It's going to be a great fan base. Supposed to be the first all green, energy efficient arena that's ever been made. The ice is supposed to be made from recycled stuff. It's supposed to be a little shade of green. So it's really, really cool to see where the NHL is going, leading the sports world with the new arenas, it kind of seems the NHL is almost like that test dummy corp of if this is going to work or if it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's not, like you said, exciting things as far as Seattle getting a team and obviously the TV deal with the NHL, and then even with the NFL as well, getting their TV deal. Always good to see stuff like that going on as it brings more money into these leagues. And I mean, as much as a lot of it goes to the owners and the higher ups that don't need the money, hopefully, like to see some of it trickle down to the players, their equipment, facilities, stuff like that, to make it better as a player and as a spectator for these sports. So
Absolutely. And that's another thing too. The NHL, being the smaller market league that they are during this whole COVID situation, majority of the teams volunteered to pay for all ring staff's salaries and all that stuff. It's a shame that you don't see the NFL coming out doing the same thing when they're making, just talk about this recent TV deals that both leagues got. NHL got $7 billion, NFL got $110 billion. They got the money to do it. It's like, why does the NFL always seem to play hardball with the public almost all the time? It seems like the public's leaning one way on an issue, the NFL comes out and says, just like what they said, with the full stadium things. It's like, Roger Goodell, full stadiums by September 9th. People are like, wait a second, motherfucker. I'd love to see full stadiums on TV, but no way am I comfortable enough going to sit around 70,000 people in a stadium. It's like, yeah, it's great for the sport. Love to see the fans are back.
yeah,
I ain't going to a stadium like that anytime soon with that many people.
no. I
It's
mean,
like,
plus it's
you'd
too
like to
early
see
to
them do a
tell.
little more. You'd like to see the NFL do a little bit more especially with the pocketbooks that they got and the pull that they have with the government and their own politics that they all have. It's a shame, man, that for how much money and how much of the United States of America is the National Football League. It's just like Sundays were for church and all that back in the day. NFL comes in and says, nope, this is our day. And then, oh, yeah, we'll add a Monday night game. Yep, we'll add a Thursday night game. Oh, yeah, we'll keep at, you know what I mean? It's like they're
Yeah,
a never-ending way to try to take over full control of, I wouldn't doubt, the NFL Network, I wouldn't doubt if they have more NFL channels with what they do, like with Hard Knocks, all that stuff. I wouldn't be surprised eventually if you see a full 24/7, 365 NFL, basically docuseries.
Oh yeah, there's definitely enough, and like you said, a lot with the lack of drama in the NHL. There's a plethora of it in the NFL to where you could do something like that and make it, like you said, a year-round thing. There's always something to talk about with the NFL, whether it's a what he said or what he did, or Deshaun Watson, even that kind of thing. That's drama outside of the regular season. So, but yeah.
Just goes to show more money, more problems.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And like baseball, you never really hear anything about these baseball guys, and they're the fucking richest ones of them all.
Yeah. Some
Same
of
with
them get into like
golfers. You
drug
never hear
issues, but
anything
that's
about
about it.
golf. Right. You never hear anything about golfers really either, and they're making bank.
Oh yeah.
It's like, why is the NFL? Is it the culture? Is it the owners? Is it what they deem acceptable versus non-acceptable compared to these other leagues? It almost seems like there's a problem up the chain somewhere where they haven't figured their shit out to pass that along the way down, because you're continuing year in, year out. You're seeing stories of guys in the NFL doing horrible shit, and half the time nothing really even happens because they're untouchable because of the amount of revenue that they bring in for the NFL. It's like people getting shot, strip clubs, like people being robbed, people stopping. Like, where in the fuck does this happen in other sports? Like,
Yeah.
like, how does that opportunity even be able to present itself when it doesn't seem like it's even possible in these other sports?
Yeah.
Is it
Like
because you have a whole week? You only play one game a week? You got nothing to do? Is that what it is? You got all these off days and stuff too, where all these other leagues, you're constantly on the road, traveling with the team, getting ready for the next event.
it could be a part of it. But like you said too, it's all money is a devious thing for these guys to deal with. And I don't know. I'm sure it's a combination of a lot of things that are over both of our heads, but as much as it's always a dream as a kid, like, oh, I want to be a NFL player and this and that, and like when you grow up, it's like you don't understand the stress that comes with that. That's why I'm glad I'm a spectator and we sit here talking about this kind of stuff instead of having to deal with it personally. So
Yeah, exactly. It's like you grow up to make it to the pros, and then you finally grow up and realize what all of these people have to deal with 24/7 who are in the limelight like that, and it's just like,
some
no,
of them
thank
younger
you.
than us. A
Yeah,
lot of them
no.
younger than us.
And it's funny, I always it's funny every now and then, it's just like, oh, just thinking back to the sports days and, oh, I was good, that type of thing. And then it's like, Bryce Harper was born the same day as me, and he signed a fucking how big a contract with the Phillies. It's just like, that's who you can compare yourself to on the track of, it's just like how hard you really worked. It's
Yeah.
like, it's funny.
Even when I compare like Juju Smith-Schuster, I'm two 2 or 3 months older than him, and I look at him and I'm like, like that's who I compare myself to, and technically he's a little younger than me. But yeah, I mean, good for these guys if they figure it out and they can have a clean slate throughout their whole life, but not everybody gets there.
No, and the guys who are superstars from the time they're 14, 15 years old, going to college, superstars, going to the pros, superstars. Usually those are the guys that have some sort of mixed up along the way, just due to they never got to be a kid. Like, they never got to be a kid and make those mistakes, learn what's right, what's wrong, what you
Hmm.
can say, what you can't say. It's like Tiger Woods, the whole Tiger Woods thing that happened with him. It's like he was a phenom since he was like 7 years old. He never got to do anything
No.
of his own volition. It was always golf. It was always golf. And when he got the money and the time in his situation, he was able to do anything that he wanted to. What he did clearly is what he did, probably because he never got to experience partying and living that lifestyle of hanging out with people that you don't, it's crazy of how often that is the case of
Mm-hmm.
where high named guy when they're a kid or in high school or even in college, their young years, and then the media pressure's on them. Eventually they break.
Mm-hmm. And I guess on the flip side of that, one rare case, and last year he died, Kobe Bryant, with how he came straight out of high school, obviously one of the greatest to ever step on the court. From at least what we've seen and like what I've always known about him, he's always been business. He never got really into trouble with anything. Got married, had kids. He's had a couple things over the years.
He had some rape allegations that he paid a couple chicks off. He wasn't the most squeaky clean guy, but like a woman accused him of raping her, and she filed the police report, all that stuff, and then Kobe Bryant admitted to a sexual encounter, but he said that it was like consensual and all that deal. I don't really know how the whole thing turned out. I'm not about to go back and look into it now since that's all in the past and he no longer is alive and with us here. But that happened when he was young kid. I want to say he was like 19 when that happened to him, just entering the NBA. So it goes to show even somebody who's on that pedestal that people try to hide that, because like a lot of people don't really know that unless you've kind of done some digging into Kobe Bryant. A lot of people, they've done a great job of hiding that from the people to put him on that pedestal of being one of the greatest, most squeaky clean, just great guys, because they call him the Black Mamba. It's the way that he lived is idolized and how he prepared and stuff like that, which is great on the court. But off the court, he obviously had some issues. As a kid, probably that same effect. You're going straight from high school to the NBA where you can do anything you want and have the money where you can do anything you want.
Mm-hmm.
Kids who don't have that experience of just being able to live their life, it's either the drugs or drinking, partying, girls, social media, everybody will find a vice which leads to their downfall if they don't get to be a kid and live life. That's why I like how we talked about going straight from high school to the pros, how most kids should go get that experience of college where you can go party if you want to. You can be around people who are obnoxious and you kind of get to see what life is like outside of high school. Because in high school, you're such in a protected environment where you're still living at home. You're not worrying about what's going to be there for food in most circumstances. Obviously, some kids do have the unfortunate world of having to deal with that type of thing. But let's just say in Kobe's case, you probably went to an academy. You didn't have to worry about nothing. Most of these kids who are phenoms, by the time they're 13, 14 years old, go play on the AAU team, and then their coaches are paying for them, and they're set for a lot of kids who are that good get the golden hand, but that golden hand also turns into a fucking mouth and comes and bites you in the ass if you don't actually get to experience things on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody can show you an example of don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Go live that and try to live that same way without all these outside pressures. And everybody's got a different brain too, so it's not like one example is going to be the way for everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody's
exactly.
got their own little way of doing things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of all I had today. We're at about hour 20 right now. So, any other points you want to add before we wrap things up?
Yeah, just one thing. Please, Philadelphia Flyers, do something. Please do something. It's such an eyesore to watch, man. I guess that's really all I got. So I really hope they do something. Hope the Brewers get a dub today, opening day. Let's hope that they can pull out a victory.
Yeah, as soon
The
as we're done
Bucks
here, try to
are the
watch.
Bucks on tonight?
I want to say they are because I don't think they played yesterday. They finished up a series against the Clippers that they split the games. They play tomorrow. Trailblazers. And just an update, bottom of the second, Brewers, Twins, 0-0. So nothing's going on yet.
And then just sticking with baseball real quick, one quick news about opening day. The Nationals Mets Thursday night and Friday night games are postponed due to COVID protocol. There's been a handful of guys on the Nationals that looks like tested positive when they were still in Florida for spring training on Monday. Still haven't, I guess, got better or passed test, whatever the MLB's protocol is on that whole thing. So that's postponed. Wonder if other games are going to start getting postponed. I mean,
How long of the
states
MLB
just
season
opening
is?
up too. Yeah, states just opening up too in the baseball state, like where they had spring training, Texas, Florida. It's going to be interesting to see if COVID follows these teams around or how that's going to go. So
Yeah.
I guess that's the only thing I had. Other than that, Sanchez for the Yankees launched a 407-foot homer, 2-run homer on opening day already. So he's off to a good start, it looks like. So, yeah, it's going to be great to see baseball back and around. I know I hate watching full games because it takes forever and it's boring and whatnot. But being there, you can at least tolerate watching a baseball game. So I might tune in every now and then, check the scores, might catch it probably 7 through 9.
Yeah. Yeah, the baseball season's a long season. We'll fill you guys in on who looks hot out of the gates. Injuries, unfortunately, they're going to happen, but we'll be on top of those as they do.
Are they
And
playing a full season?
yeah, I believe it's back to a full 164 game season.
162?
Or 162,
Damn.
yeah.
Wow. I didn't think that they were going to be back to that. I thought that they were maybe doing what they did last year, playing like the half a season.
Hold on. April 26 games, May 28, June 27, July 24. Yeah, so they're playing full months of baseball all the way to October.
So, yeah, so full season of baseball is back. Well, good for that. I think that's the first sport that has returned in somewhat normalcy.
Yeah, or the NFL
'Cause-
too. They had to move some games to like Tuesdays and Wednesdays over the year. But
right, but they didn't have fans. Was just what
yeah,
I'm saying. Like
yeah,
MLB, they're gonna have fans. They're gonna
hmm
have the whole deal. So it's kind of sports is back
yeah.
almost like in normalcy. Oh, James Harden was ruled out tonight. James Aldridge set for the Nets debut tonight
I'm
or
LaMarcus
whatever.
Aldridge.
LaMarcus, my bad. Yeah, LaMarcus.
Um, yeah, we briefly talked about the Nets picking him up. Yeah, it'd be nice to see him get out on the court. Definitely looks like they've been hurting to get some vets out there. It's a lot of young guys kind of running the show right now. Till Durant, Griffin, Kyrie, all them guys can finally play together. It's gonna be nutty once those guys all play a game together.
I don't think it's gonna be good.
It's gonna be rough to start. That's why they better get some games in by week or two left of the season. Because if they're banking on coming into the playoffs, they might get knocked out early if they bank on the guys just coming in game one of the playoffs and playing well.
Absolutely. Team chemistry is so important, especially in basketball. You got to get that rhythm down to your guys coming in off the bench. When you get tired,
Especially with how bad their defense is. They might be one of the first team in NBA history to be number one offensive efficiency and worst in defense. So that goes to
But
show
it's working for him, though.
Yeah, I mean, they got to put up 130, 140 points a night, but guess what? The other team's got 120, 130 that they're giving up. So they got to ball out every night to win.
Well, and when you got Kyrie, James, all those guys, they each put up 20, 30 points. You're at 130, 120 right there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. I mean, any news on when LeBron is going to be back?
I think it's kind of a day-to-day basis right now. I know it was a high ankle sprain, which I mean, usually he plays through a lot of stuff. And I feel like if the Lakers weren't in the spot they are, he might be playing through it. But since he's got the luxury of being who he is and what the Lakers roster is at, he's probably just sitting out, making sure he's healthy come season's end. But yeah, I think it's like a day-to-day basis because every day I see, oh, LeBron's still out, LeBron doubtful. So
I just pulled it up just because I wanted to see if there was any like full reports on what's. So 7 days, a week ago, it looks like potentially he could be out 3 to 5 weeks with his ankle injury. It looks like it was a high right ankle sprain, which I don't know for all those people who are knowledgeable in injuries or have had them, but a sprain is worse than a clean break because it doesn't heal correctly and it'll always continue to linger as a pain and injury. So him being out 3 to 5 more, well, now 2 to 4 weeks at this point. AD, I don't know if there's been any news on when he's coming back.
I think he was supposed to get evaluated this week again to see when he was going to come back.
See real quick before we sign off here what they have anything on that. So it looks like AD is day to day.
Okay, maybe that's what I saw then instead of LeBron.
Yeah, Anthony Davis is day to day at this point. It looked like there was no rupture of his right Achilles tendon after his MRI. His updated one a week ago. So he should be back. So that's good for the Lakers to get him back. Seems like every team but the Clippers this year. It seems like the Clippers kind of are that team flying underneath the radar that nobody's really paying attention to that could potentially come out and be the team coming out of the West.
Them or the Jazz. The Jazz seem like they're staying pretty healthy.
And it'd be good to see Utah getting back to being good. I know back in the 90s, Stockton and their team that they had there, that was probably the last time the Utah Jazz was really relevant in being a title contender.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really all I got, man. Until really these trade deadlines are coming around for these other sports, NFL, unless any really between now and the draft, it's probably not going to be a handful of like a whole bunch of news. So
no,
these episodes from now until the draft are probably going to be a little bit shorter. As there's really not, obviously we always can find something to talk about. It seems like we always say, yeah, it'll be about an hour, and then it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Always find something to talk about. So that's always a good thing hopping on the pod here. But thanks again to everybody listening and following, subscribing. Don't forget, check out all of our socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, most importantly. It's where we have the live video to all of our shows. You also can check out our audio on Spotify,
Google Podcasts, Anchor, Outcast, Overlay. Yeah, we're all over the place. You just got to find us. We're not that hard to find. Yeah, it's gonna be another four-week episode. I'll be out of town tomorrow. Be dropping some news tomorrow though. We talked about our podcast guests coming on next week around the Masters. We'll be finalizing the details on that tomorrow. So either tomorrow or Saturday, we will have the details up of what episode, who it's going to be, all that good stuff. So make sure you guys look out for that as well.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm really excited to final up those details here and get that moving underway here. I know we potentially, how I talked about having my buddy on around the NFL or NHL trade deadline time. That's one interview that we're looking forward to as well. Also, we could potentially be having another company or another guest, I should say, on the show That's early talks right now. So yeah, just good to see where we're at. I mean, love doing what we do here. Every day is a blast, and we all do it. We do it for the fans. We do it for you guys. Yeah, so just shout out again. Thank you guys for all the support. It's really meaningful. It's really cool to see. Thinking what was a show that just was an idea about a week and a half ago, and now we're on week 2 here and seems to be moving and grooving pretty well. So it seems like we're getting our feet underneath us here, and we're hopefully making it the best show we can for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Well, everybody have a great and awesome holiday weekend. We'll be back on Monday. Again, with not doing an episode tomorrow, might have more to unpack on Monday then with really 3 days of stuff to unravel, and even Monday morning as well. So looking forward to catching up with you guys later, and yeah, have a great weekend.
Yeah, have a great weekend, everyone. And like I said, since Collin's going to be out of town this weekend, unless there's any crazy breaking news, there will not be an episode tomorrow. I mean, if there's something obviously crazy that happens, I will hop on and come on and I will talk about it. But unless there's anything crazy that happens, have a great weekend, everyone. Happy Easter, and we will see you on Monday.
Sounds good. See you, man.
See ya.